If you're interested in urban sketching but you're not really sure what you need, I've put together a short video outlining some of the basics you might like to buy to get started. The first thing to consider is a sketchbook, and this is the one thing where I really don't think you should skimp. It's a fine line between buying something that's cheap that will just crinkle up as soon as you put watercolour on it. But if you buy something that's too expensive, you might be scared to use it because you don't want to mess it up, which is certainly how I felt when I first started. But this one is the one that I've been using lately, and I think it's great. It's a Sea White of Brighton, got a slight texture to it, but not too much of a tooth. A5 size. I find A6 too small. I think A4 is probably a little bit big to begin with. Certainly, again, for me, I found it a bit intimidating. I wouldn't go anything below about 200 GSM. This takes the paint nicely. I think they're about £11 in the UK, and I'd highly recommend them. I'm not sure of the price of them in the US. It may not be quite such a good option there, but brands like Etcher and Stillman & Byrne are more readily available there and might be a better price than this perhaps. So it just depends where you are. But in the UK, I'd highly recommend Sea White of Brighton. Next we come on to pencils. And here I really wouldn't overthink it. I would just use anything that you've already got. If it's a mechanical pencil, obviously you don't need to take a sharpener. Another option, which I like to use, is a watercolour pencil, because that way when you apply a watercolour wash, the pencil marks just dissolve away. If you do go for that option, I would suggest using something like a blue. If you go for something like a yellow, for example, and then you apply a blue wash on a sky, you're going to end up with a green sky. So it's quite important to consider what colour. Probably the best colour in the UK would be grey, but anyway, I've gone for blue optimistically. You can of course go straight in with pen, and the type of pen again is very subjective. You can go for a fine liner, for example a Micron. They're a very popular brand. This one's a Faber-Castell, also very popular. Personally, I prefer to use fountain pens. The reason being, I like the smooth flow of ink, and I like the fact that you can get more expressive and organic lines depending on how hard you press and the angle at which you're holding it if you're using something like a Fude nib. So if you would like to go down the fountain pen route, a good option is a Lamy Safari. I have 3 or 4 Lamys. They come in a variety of colours. They're very readily available. They're very competitively priced. They come in a different variety of nib sizes, and when you get the pen will come with some free cartridges. But what you have to remember is, if you're planning on putting a watercolour wash on top, you will need to change the ink, because the ink that it comes with won't be water resistant. So as soon as you put a watercolour wash on, it's just going to smudge all your ink. So when you buy the pen, you have to factor in that you will also need to buy a converter like this one here, and then you'll need to buy a bottle of ink, and the one that I use, platinum carbon ink, and it's water resistant, so when you put your watercolour wash on top, it won't all smudge and mess up your beautiful drawing. What I will say about these bottles is they have a kind of reservoir inside them, so what you need to do is turn it upside down, then turn it the right way up, and then fill your pen from it. So there's the Lamy Safari with a converter, and they're great. Highly recommend them. There is a cheaper option of pen, which I bought about 2 weeks ago and tried for the first time at the weekend. I'm actually really impressed with. This is a Jinhao, I don't know how you pronounce it, I apologise, X750. This is great. It was less than £10. It's sturdy and quite weighty in the hand, but it actually came with a converter. So you didn't even have to buy the extra converter, because sometimes with cheap pens, the converter is nearly as much as the price of the pen. This came with it. I'm really impressed. I took it out for the first time last weekend with my art group and used it, and I was really pleased with it. I thought it was brilliant. The ink flowed nicely. All in all, very happy with it. But my go-to pen is this one here, which is a TWSBI Eco. These are great. It's never let me down. It's never got clogged up. Again, with this one, you don't have to buy a converter. It has this piston system. Obviously, it holds more than a converter, so that's another advantage. And you can see when it's getting low on ink. So all in all, it's slightly more expensive than the Lamy Safari and more than the Jinhao, but highly recommended. So the next thing to come on to are watercolour palettes. and these vastly range in price and quality. But one that I'll mention, which I highly recommend, is the Winsor & Newton Field Box. It has everything you need. It has a built-in water flask, it has the water pot, and it has various mixing areas. The water flask comes out, and that can be a mixing area. It even comes with a tiny little brush. I've actually done another video on this. You can get this at 2 price points. You can buy the Cotman version, which is the student grade watercolours, so they're less pigmented, or you can buy the professional grade. I've got both, and I have to say I love them both. I took the Cotmans on holiday, so just in case I broke them or lost them, it wasn't such an expensive thing to replace. And of course, you can always start off with the Cotman box. It's the same box, and then as you progress and maybe want to spend a bit more on slightly better quality watercolours, you can just replace them, because these pans all come out and you can put whatever you like in there. I do have another couple of videos on the Cotman and the professional boxes, so I won't go into any more detail, but this is one that I'd highly recommend. Winsor & Newton also do other palettes in a more standard shape, such as this one, and they have various colour schemes. They have sort of an urban sketching one and a landscape one, so you can have a look through and choose the palettes that you think would be more useful. And here you've got 3 nice mixing areas, and it again comes with this tiny brush. Talking of brushes, the ones I'm using at the moment are these travel brushes, and I don't just use them when I'm out and about, I use them at home as well because I like them that much. They're in 3 sizes and come in a little pouch, and they just screw together like that. This particular make is Fumui. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'll put it up on the screen. Another alternative are water brushes. These actually have an integral reservoir that you fill up. The brush quality isn't usually quite as good, so these are really handy, and I usually carry one with me just in case for some reason I haven't got any water with me. If you've gone for a normal palette and not the one that's got the built-in flask and water pot, then obviously you're going to need something to carry your water in. And something I've found really useful over the years are the little bottles that you often get shampoo and shower gel in hotels. They're perfect size, just enough for a short sketching session, and then you'll need something to actually put the water in and to rinse your brushes. And these camping cups are fantastic for that. Silicone camping cup, small, collapsible, just the right size and sturdy enough, and then when you've finished it just folds up and packs away. Finally, you might want to have some sort of pencil case. If you're only taking 1 pen and 1 pencil, you could use one of these. They have an elastic band on them that straps around your sketchbook and are really handy. And that is actually all you need. If you'd like to see some more detail about some of the stuff that I take out sketching with me and tips that I've picked up along the way that help me, I do have other videos which I'll link in the description. So just go out, get sketching and have fun.